In Peru, President Dina Boluarte ruled out resigning after the opening of an investigation against her for alleged abandonment of office. In South Korea, members of President Yoon Suk Yeol's party walked out of parliament ahead of an impeachment vote scheduled for Saturday over his attempt to impose martial law. In Romania, Calin Georgescu, winner of the first round of presidential elections, will contest the decision invalidating them and confirms that he will also run in the new elections, which have not yet been scheduled. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin in Peru. President Dina Boluarte ruled out resigning after the opening of an investigation against her for alleged abandonment of office. The Peruvian president ratified that she will complete her term of office, which expires on July 28, 2026, saying that the possibility of her resignation is not in her plans. In this regard, the Public Prosecutor's Office opened a preliminary investigation against Boluarte for alleged crimes of omission of functional acts and alternatively abandonment of office between June 29th and July 9th, 2023, when she underwent a plastic surgery. To this must be added the fact that during her term in office, Boluarte raised her historic lows in popular approval. A survey carried out in September and made public on Sunday confirmed that the rejection of the administration of the President of Peru, Dina Boluarte, continues to increase. According to the survey, 92% of citizens disapprove the performance of the head of state, while the figure of acceptance is 5% of those polled. In the last month, the country has been shaken by crime and extortions that the current executive is unable to manage. These figures are released after 2 days of strike by the transportation workers, who have called for a national strike of all sectors and on Saturday announced the rupture of the dialogue with the legislators due to the refusal of Congress to repeal Law 32108 and to file the law on urban terrorism. In Colombia, the persecution and attacks suffered by young people during the social outbursts of 2019 continues. That is why they do not stop mobilizing. Let's see the following report.
Joana González is una joven activista de
Joana González is a 26-year-old activist who is demonstrating in front of the Congress of the Republic in search of answers and guarantees for the disappearance of her sister Lisette, with whom she created the project Punto Renacer, a community communication collective to make visible social problems in the country.
In
the framework of all this, they made an invitation to my sister. They made an invitation to us to cover a mobilization. This mobilization was for the commemoration of April 28th, which was being commemorated 1 year after the national strike of 2021. And it was under the premise that she would be back in 15 days.
Pero Lisette no regresó.
But Lisette did not return, just like many other young people. Her disappearance is part of a reality that many young activists have faced, and in which many others have suffered persecution for years, as is the case of young Alejandro Hernandez, a frontline protester during the 2019 social outburst, who was held by the police and deprived of his freedom for almost 19 months.
We have
to take into account that it has not only been a persecution by the state, but also a stigmatization because we are branded as vandals, as guerrillas, and so on. I was in a village in an activity of memory in a massacre that took place in La Pedregosa, in Cauca. And I was kidnapped for the second time because first I was kidnapped by the state and the second time here with these armed criminal forces on the margin of the law. I was kidnapped for 3 days by them. So there has been persecution from all sides.
Despite
this, John Alejandro continues to fight for his rights, just as he did when he took to the streets in 2019 to show his dissatisfaction with the health system because of a surgery he had been denied after a long process. Just like him, Daniela Cárcamo, who went out for the first time as an activist, continues to mobilize to make her voice heard and ask for her rights and those of other Colombians to be respected.
People are too afraid to exercise their rights. People are afraid to even write a petition. Imagine how afraid people are to march. But the message to everyone would be that if you can, come with us, because that makes them attack us less. It makes the police respect us more. I remember that the indigenous collectives accompanied us after they saw that the police were beating us all over the place and shooting rubber bullets and all kinds of artifacts. The indigenous collectives accompanied us, and then the mothers came out, and then all the people came out. The police no longer felt they had the power to harm us.
Daniela pide a la población que acompañe.
Daniela asks the population to accompany the young people to the streets to fight for their rights, but above all, not to stigmatize them.
Valeria Cardona, Telesur, Bogotá, Colombia.
In a news in Venezuela, the government declared to the world its own Bolivarian military doctrine, stressing that it is not imperialist nor an imitation of anyone. During a work meeting with the military commanders of the higher and tactical units of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, President Nicolás Maduro affirmed that thanks to the efforts of each of the elements that make up the troops of the Bolivarian Revolution, the country was able to have its own military doctrine without foreign influence. Likewise, the Venezuelan head of state recalled that 26 years ago, Commander Hugo Chavez was appointed president of the country under the vote of the people, initiating a new stage in the 21st century. The president also announced that next December 9th, the country will commemorate the 200th anniversary of the great victory of Ayacucho, remembering as a historical moment in the Latin American continent.
Porque si algo puede decir Venezuela hoy,
because if there is something that Venezuela can say today with absolute clarity and firmness before the whole world,
es que Venezuela tiene una doctrina militar propia.
Is that Venezuela has its own military doctrine. It is not foreign. It is not imperialist. It is not imposed. It is not an imitation of anyone. It is our military doctrine. It is our strategic concept of defense. It is our strategic concept of defense.
Es nuestro concepto estratégico de defensa.
We now have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Cuba prepares to celebrate the 52nd anniversary of the establishment of relations with the Caribbean community, CARICOM. At the Palace of the Revolution in Havana, the head of state ratified his country's support and solidarity with its Caribbean neighbors before their representatives. This December 8th, Cuba commemorates friendship with the brotherly peoples of the Caribbean. During the meeting with the 14 representatives accredited in Cuba, the President, in addition to conveying an affectionate greeting from Army General Raúl Castro Ruz, thanked the Caribbean solidarity.
This is an occasion to thank you on behalf of the Cuban people and government for the constant support of CARICOM to Cuba in all international forums. Your open opposition to the economic bloc of the United States against our country, which has remained unchanged over time. The support and gestures of political and material solidarity aid to the Cuban people by the United States before the difficult circumstances that our nation lives, and more recently before the affectations caused by earthquakes and hurricanes.
In a landmark operation in the Caucedo port near Santo Domingo, Dominican authorities seized 9.5 tons of cocaine, marking the largest drug bust in the country's history. The second biggest seizure on record was reported in 2006, when officials found more than 5,680 pounds. On this occasion, the cocaine was hidden within 2 shipping containers filled with bananas. According to police authorities, the shipment came from Guatemala and was destined for Belgium. The estimated street value of the confiscated drugs is around $250 million. Authorities have arrested 10 individuals linked to this operation. So far in 2024, Dominican law enforcement has confiscated nearly 47 tons of illegal drugs. In South Korea, members of President Yoon Suk Yeol's party walked out of parliament ahead of an impeachment vote scheduled for Saturday over his attempt to impose martial law. As lawmakers debated the motion filed by the main opposition Democratic Party, only one of Yoon's People Power Party members remained in his seat, raising doubts about whether the measure would reach the two-thirds threshold to pass because the opposition needs at least 8 PP votes. In this context, opposition leaders have said that if the impeachment motion fails, they plan to take it up again on Wednesday. And the South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol apologized Saturday, hours before the vote. In his brief speech, President Yoon Suk Yeol offered his apologies to the people of Korea, but did not offer to resign, merely saying that he would entrust the party with measures to stabilize the political situation, including his mandate. Meanwhile, the opposition party had called for his resignation while tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets before the vote.
Regarding the stabilization of the political situation, including the remainder of my term, I will entrust this entirely to our party. Moving forward, the administration of state affairs will be a shared responsibility between the party and the government. Once again, I deeply apologize for the concern and distress I have caused you.
South Koreans reacted to President Yoon's speech.
Yoon labels those who disagree with him as pro-North Korea and has even gone so far as to declare martial law, causing widespread anxiety among the public. At this point, I just want him to step down voluntarily rather than go through with the impeachment proceedings.
Whether impeachment occurs or not, the public will not forgive him. I believe it's too late. It's already too late. As university students, professors, citizens, and the religious communities have all taken a stand. Even if he apologized, I personally don't feel much impact anymore.
We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Romania, Calin Georgescu, winner of the first round of the presidential elections, will contest the decision invalidating them and confirms that he will also run in the new elections, which have not yet been scheduled. Several days after the election, the country's presidency declassified a document proving alleged cyber attacks. It also accused the candidate, after the result was known, of having declared zero campaign expenses. These declarations, attributed to the current president, Klaus Iohannis, were accompanied by rumors about his departure from the country. However, on Saturday, he declared from Romania that he will contest the court decision and will continue to compete for the truth in the yet-to-be rescheduled elections. The United Nations denounces the escalation of Israel's campaign against the United Nations Relief and Works Organization for Palestine Refugees. Through a communique, the entity condemned the use of billboards in several cities around the world and pay advertisements on the Google platform in multiple websites to seek to discredit the UNRWA. It also denounced that the Tel Aviv regime persists in its campaign with communicational tools to brand the organization as terrorists. Furthermore, the UN recalled that to date, at least 251 UNRWA employees have been killed in the coastal enclave, and two-thirds of its buildings have been bombed during the Israeli aggressions. And the Lebanese government met with army commanders to assess the plan to deploy forces south of the Litani River. Interim Prime Minister Mikati led the meeting with military forces in the city of Tyre. Authorities review and approve the operational plan prepared by the Army Command to implement the deployment of the forces in the area. This in the framework of a ceasefire between Israel and the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah after almost 14 months of cross-border fire. The Lebanese interim prime minister recalled that the main objective is to advance in the reconstruction of the South in order to achieve stability in the Middle East region.
The stability in the South and its reconstruction is the key to the stability in the Middle East region, to which security and safety will return only through the implementation of international resolutions and the protection of our homeland, land, and sovereignty.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.